Hi guys, Raindrops here. Sorry, I'm running late, a little late. I had to run to the store, and I thought, okay, it's 6 o'clock. I've got no, 5 o'clock. I've got an hour. You know, whatever. You'd think there'd be no traffic on the way to the store, right? It's 5 o'clock. Everyone's heading home. No traffic. First of all, there's this road that I like to take that gets me to the highway. That's like 9 miles long. It's a lovely drive. 35 miles per hour is the speed limit. Now, no one really in this town drives the speed limit, and I know how to take the road at like 60 miles an hour if I can, and there's like no cops or whatever. So I intended to do that, but then there was this car in the way who was driving the speed limit. Who does that? Who drives the speed limit in this country? But anyway, so I got stuck, and yeah, it took a while, and I finally got to the store at like 10 minutes to 6. I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do the stream. So I actually had to call and get my mother to tell you guys that I'm postponing the stream. So I actually had to walk her through how to use an image board. So thank you very much, Mom. I appreciate it. It was alright. So I don't know who's watching or not because I don't even visit my live stream website anymore. I just use it. And it didn't even hyperlink. I'm frustrated about that, but oh well. Anyway, so Italian or Danish would be actually useful, so I'm gonna go with Italian because I don't know how to do Danish, and Leo, as much as I would love to try out a New Zealand accent, it's so similar to British and Australian, I don't have the time to try and fine-tune it right now. But I will definitely work on that one for the future. So here we go. Pinkie Pie prefers her pasta plain. My, the alliteration is just oof. And here we go. Romance random. This all 6,000 words. Alright, add Coon, let's see what you've got. Fluttershy, her ponies are pretty pink. Itching eyes never lie. But that day Pinkie Pie stuck her hoof in the wrong one. It was, as she was about to learn, one of those very special anything can happen days. One of those days when the wake-up itch was in the wrong eye. She soon found the right one and gave it a vigorous rubbing, really digging her hoof to get the itch out of there. Big, brilliant blotches of pastel danced across her drunken vision as she sat up in bed and fluttered both her eyes at the room. Somewhere in the mess of her tangled tail, under several layers of soft, warm blankets, something stirred from its rest and began poking about in earnest. It's coming. Pinkie giggled as her little bedfellow nudged and napped playfully at her flank. She threw the blankets aside and pulled at the young alligator, holding it high and nuzzling its snout. Time to wake, Gummy! My right eye is all itchy-twitchy today, and you know what that means. The pink pony put on her widest, most toothy smile as she batted her bright blue eyes at the alligator. It looked at her and wagged its little green tail back and forth. It's time to grab the day and shake it. She shook the alligator gently, to see what falls out. Outside, the moon still cast its soft light from the sleepy little village, but at Sugar Cube Corner they had to be ready for the morning rush when every pony came to get their breakfast. And I always have a problem with this one, because everyone just assumes that Sugar Cube Corner is a restaurant. It's not a restaurant, it's a candy store. And really pastry store. They sell donuts and candies and cupcakes, and it's pretty much the equivalent of Dunkin' Donuts is really what it is. It's not a chain, it's one store, but it's pretty much what we would call Dunkin' Donuts. They sell donuts and probably bagels if you ask for them, and muffins and possibly coffee, but I would ugh, Pinkie Pie and coffee. It's an odd combination. So it's not really a restaurant. I wouldn't go there to eat breakfast unless, of course, I was a bug from Men in Black and I absolutely required sugar to survive. Specifically sugar water though, so I don't know how that would work. The worms would love it. Anyways, back to the story. Where am I here? There we go. And that meant getting up really early. Pinkie was always up first of all ponies. She jumped up in her bed and bounced, setting off on the large, springy mattress. With a leap and a whee, she landed elegantly upon the floor and threw open a window to the world. Good morning, Ponyville! She exclaimed to the quiet village, scaring off a few birds who had been nesting out on the roof of the bakery. And a happy Hearts and Hooves Day. Oh, it's Hearts and Hooves Day. That's lovely. She added as her tummy made a low rumbling noise. The party pony giggled to herself and spun around, bounding off to the bathroom. Today, I think I'll make a cupcake. Really? Really? Think you're going to make a cupcake? You don't say. A cupcake. Pinkie Pie. Baking cupcakes. What a strange concept. You know? All you have to do is take a cup of flour, add it to them. Anyways, catchy little tune there. A cupcake with cherries and chocolate and little sugar hearts, and she babbled joyously to herself as she turned on the water and poured in her favorite bubble bath. Soon her body was submerged in the hot, sweetly scented water, with bubbles up to the tips of her ears as she leaned back and... Oh, jeez. Kinda want to take a hot bath now. She blew a little and sent a cloud of bubbles flying with a happy chortle. Today is a great day, the very bestest day, in fact, because it's today. Well said, Pinkie, well said. A high-pitched duet of wailing broke the peace at the bakery. Pinkie bounded down the hall, calling in sing-song voice, I got it, I got it. She opened the door and peeked inside at Pound and Pumpkin in their crib. Aw, there. Auntie Pinkie is here to wipe that frown from your faces. She trotted up to the crib and pulled up the two crying foals. Let's get you two ready for your big day. You remember, don't you? She smiled and put them down, tickling their tummies while she pulled out a fresh pair of fresh diapers. You get to spend all of today with your granny. Aren't you excited? Huh? They giggled a little, and the pig party joined in. Yeah, I know. Mr. and Mrs. Cake are too... now. Oh, what? Oh, right, they're excited. She realized they're excited. Yeah, I know. Mr. and Mrs. Cake are too. Now, she changed the two foals with skilled swiftness and bopped their noses. Let's get you two some yummies in your tummies. Soon the two foals had been given their bottles and were suckling away blissfully, while Pinkie waltzed around the kitchen, stirring bowls of batter and kneading dough to the tunes of her favorite baking song. Getting tongue-tied just reading this with all this alliteration. Got to hand it to Ad Coon. It's done well. You know, I don't have much to complain about, really. Back to the story. Before too long, the lovely aroma of sweet bread and cakes would waft through the bakery and out into the streets of Ponyville, sure to tantalize every nose and raise the spirits of even the grumpiest of ponies. You're in a mighty fine mood today, dearie, Mrs. Cake said, with her usual warm smile as she came out into the kitchen and picked up the twins. I sure wish I had your energy every morning. Pinkie gave a light-hearted scoff. Who could possibly sleep when a new day promises so many joys? That's just silly. If I could, I would never forever sleep. Is that just a typo? Or is... I mean, if it wasn't Pinkie Pie, I wouldn't... You know, if it wasn't for the fact that it's Pinkie Pie, I would not question the fact that that's a typo, but because it's Pinkie Pie, is she trying to... Is she trying to say something? I don't know what she's trying to do there. Anyways, I'm sure you wouldn't. The plump, rose-maned pony said, wanting to add that neither would any pony else. I hope you have a fun day while we're out. Just remember to keep the place neat. You got it, Pinkie said with a salute. Pinkie Responsibility Pie, remember? Forgot the salute. I was late. I'm sorry. Mrs. Cake walked into the store, and the twins came back a moment later. Oh, Pinkie, could you run down to the market and get some extra cherries? Those are always big on Hearts and Hooves Day, and I can't leave in case my mother shows up to get the twins, you know? Sure thing, Mrs. Cake. Pinkie washed her hooves and trotted out the door with a tongue on her lips and a purpose in mind. Now, if my intuition is anything to go by, and judging by the title, she's gonna run into Fluttershy. She's gonna get all distracted because there's a slight romance that was, well, just because of the tag on the story. Although that kind of gives things away slightly, but not really. I wonder if she's just gonna get distracted and go on a date with Fluttershy and completely forget all about that, which would be kind of funny. This isn't a comedy though; it's a random, which I'm not really well versed in, so I don't really know how it's going to play out. So this should be interesting to watch. Pinkie bounced happily down Stirrup Street on her way to the market to get the cherries for Mrs. Cake. It was still early, but the market was already alive with ponies setting up stalls and inspecting goods when she arrived. As Pinkie weaved her way across the market from stall to stall, she wondered what she might do tonight when she was on her own. Perhaps she would throw a Hearts and Hooves party and invite all her bestest friends, but most of them already had plans for the day. She stopped at a stall and scratched her chin thoughtfully with a hoof. A sweet mix of aromas played alluringly about her nose. She looked up at the elderly green earth pony, smiling at her from... I suppose if this sets up the next piece of dialogue, it's okay, but I really don't like the fact that I have to stop and think this is Granny Smith while I'm reading. I don't like doing that. Anyways, from behind a small sea of leaves. Something tickling your nose today, Miss Pie? I have fresh spearmint and sage. There's nothing to confirm that it's Granny Smith. You're left to wonder. You got to read all of this. That's just bloody awful. You should not have to... Unless it's just a no-name pony, but why... Elderly green earth pony. Don't give me the impression that it's Granny Smith and then don't confirm that it's her. You're leaving me hanging here. What am I supposed to do? I actually have to skim through all this trying to figure it out, and then it's not going to happen, and there's already Fluttershy down there. And don't do that. No, I'm sorry, but Adkun, you just lost points on this story. Assuming I was keeping score. And furthermore, what's confusing is Granny Smith doesn't sell herbs. I don't even know what she does. I think she maintains the house. Well, Applejack might sell apples. Apple Bloom goes to school. Big Macintosh works the fields all day. And Granny Smith must take care of the house or just nap. You know, and you know, help. I don't even know what she does, but like she definitely does not sell herbs in town. I am not okay with this. I have fresh spearmint and sage for you. Plenty of my best basil. Let's see. Partially in thyme, too. Oh, and you do so like it hot, don't you? Maybe some garlic peppers could tempt? Pinkie sniffed at the many fresh leaves. You know how to tempt me? Oh, sweet basil. You've... Really? The way you said "the" here, the elderly green earth pony, indicates that it's already a pony we know. If it was a elderly green earth pony, or rather an elderly green earth pony, then it would indicate that it's someone we don't know. But because it says "the," it indicates that it's someone we've already met. Or rather, if it said she saw an elderly green earth pony and then it's referencing it again, it's got to be someone we've already met. You don't do this if you haven't met the pony yet, or the character, because, you know, I try to be ambiguous and fail at it. But so this tells me it's someone we've already met. So who do I already know who's elderly, green, and an earth pony? Granny Smith. She's the only character. So I'm assuming this is Granny Smith. And then you get over here and tell me it's some pony named Sweet Basil? What the bloody hell are you doing? No. You do not do that. No, absolutely not. No, out of the question. Cut it out. She ran a hoof through the fresh basil and looked at the assortment of peppers, both fresh and dry, hanging under the roof of the stall in large bundles. A sudden craving hit her as she considered all the things she could do with such spices. She licked her lips and looked around as she heard a shy voice nearby. A light pink mane and a yellow ear peeked above the crowd near the apple stands. Now that's fine. That's what she's seeing, and then you can figure it out that it's Fluttershy, even though it's not describing the actual character. Technically, it's describing the actual character, but it's basically seeing what she saw, and you can follow her train of thought because you're gonna have the exact same one. And then when it's here, it says Fluttershy. That part is actually done properly. If there's a proper way to use Lavender Unicorn Syndrome, that is it. Colorful names. That is absolutely the best possible way you can use it. Ooh, Fluttershy! Pinkie called as she trotted across the marketplace toward the Pegasus. That's fine. That's fine, because you already know who it is. That's just indicating. Fluttershy turned with a mild look of fright. The Pegasus almost always had a mild look of fright on her face. Oh, good morning, Pinkie. Should be a comma there. She shuffled her hooves a little. Pinkie knew Fluttershy usually spent Hearts and Hooves Day alone, like any other day. It made her so sad to think about and gave her the perfect idea. And I think I already know what idea it is. Pinkie Pie loves to make everyone happy, and just because of the title of the story, she's going to spend Hearts and Hooves Day with Fluttershy. And then she's gonna forget about the favor she was supposed to do for Mrs. Cake, which I've already forgotten. Let's see. Hey, Fluttershy. So, I just got this idea. You know how it is, just out of nowhere, right? Totally unexpected. Then, BAM! She jumped and flapped a hoof towards Fluttershy, gesturing at the market. There I was when I thought to myself, Pinkie. That's me, of course. She giggled. Pinkie, I said, pasta is the thing. Pasta is good. Fluttershy looked at Pinkie in bewilderment. P pasta? Pinkie nodded enthusiastically. Pasta, Fluttershy. You're speaking to Ponyville's premier pastophile? I have never seen that word before. Actually, I'm assuming it means someone who's good with pasta. Pinkie is a pastry chef, so she might be good at cooking pasta. That'd be interesting. Why, I make the best pasta. You didn't know? I thought that would be didn't you know? Oh well. She gasped dramatically, as if the idea only just occurred to her this very instant. In truth, it was of course old news in her head. You should totally come over tonight. I'll cook you the juiciest, spiciest pasta you've ever tasted. She held up a hoof to her lips and made a kissing sound. Yes, I see what you mean with the Italian. The very best. Pinkie promise. And, close your eye first, though, Twilight. You want me to come over for dinner? Fluttershy asked uncertainly. Pinkie nodded brightly, putting her biggest, most irresistible smile with teeth from ear to ear and eyes the size of dinner plates. Normally, this would be a very terrible way to describe eyes because, as you've probably noticed, they're a little smaller than dinner plates, and my hand isn't even as large as a dinner plate. But in the pony universe, they really are that big. I mean, honestly, this eyeball takes up so that's actually a pretty accurate description. Well, windmills. Windmills. That is one big eye. Uh-huh, totally. Fluttershy considered her hooves very closely. That works. For, pasta? Pasta. Pinkie fluttered her... That's what threw me off. Pinkie fluttered her big blue eyes. The best you've ever had, I guarantee it. Oh no, Pinkie, don't go making promises you can't keep. What if she actually has had pasta from, I don't know, someone who's just... well, Pinkie Pie's really good at making pasta. Forget it, back to the story. Oh, alright. Sounds wonderful, Pinkie. I look forward to it. Pinkie bounced through the store. Coming, coming! She stopped, brushed a bit of flour off her coat, and opened the door. Oh, hey, Fluttershy, you're early. She looked at the yellow Pegasus standing outside, looking like a frightened squirrel in a beautiful white and light green dress. Pinkie couldn't remember seeing the dress before. Ooh, is that a new dress? Now, I have to stop right here, and because this is actually, I believe, quite significant. The ponies, I don't know whether or not you noticed, never seem to wear clothes, except for Rarity. Rarity is often showing off a new fashion design of hers, but that's because she's a fashionista and expected. All the other ponies in Ponyville don't wear clothes, unless it's a special occasion. They wore them to the gala. So Fluttershy wearing a dress means this is something special for her. She took the time to put on a dress. So this means that it means something to her that Pinkie Pie invited her over. So, and simply because this is a romance fic, I think Fluttershy actually has feelings for Pinkie Pie, and just might never have said anything before. So that would explain why she was so shocked when Pinkie Pie took, said, "Hey, come over to my house. I'll make you pasta." I mean, she's just like, a a romantic date has just been dropped on her plate on a silver platter. And so she's gonna take the opportunity to dress up and look nice because she wants to dress to impress. So I think that's actually quite significant. I'm gonna keep reading and see if I'm right. Fluttershy looked away. I had Rarity make it. Well, she insisted. There you go. Rarity insisted. Said I couldn't go out in an old dress. See, though, there you go. Fluttershy was already trying to go out in a dress. Do, do you like it? I, I hope I didn't overdo it. Did I overdo it? Should I come back later? I'm sorry. Why would you come back later, silly? You're here now. Pinkie gave her a hug and a peck on each cheek before leading her inside. And you look great. Come on in. Fluttershy blushed and followed the pink pony. The main room had been shined up, and a small table for two arranged in a corner near the kitchen with a view through the window to Ponyville outside. The table was decorated with fresh tulips and two elaborate origami anteaters. Fluttershy had never seen their like, holding a tall glass each. Fluttershy couldn't help but marvel at how Pinkie had managed to create such delicate things with her hooves. Wow, Pinkie! What is... No, I did not tell you to start scanning the computer. Shut up. Where was I? Oh, thanks. I knew you'd like it. She pulled out a pillow for Fluttershy to sit on and poured her a glass of deep red wine with a few small rose petals on it. My goodness, Pinkie Pie, do you have feelings for Fluttershy? I'll be right back with you. Good pasta needs tender love and care, or it'll get all sad and floppy, and I promised you the best. That's actually true. I prefer my pasta al dente. Al dente? Al dente? It is al dente. Sorry about that. Other people like it, to be perfectly honest, I'm so used to ordering al dente, I don't know what the other term is, but there's like little firm, uh, little mushy, and right in the middle. Uh, and a lot of people like it a little to the mushier side. I like it to the firmer side. I actually take a fork, and when it is able, you take one noodle with a fork, and when the two ends touch, it's finished. So I like that. But where was I going with this? It is actually the difference between those three, firm, regular, and soft, is less than like a minute. It really is. Pasta cooks very quickly. Uh, it's very easy to overdo it. So Pinkie having to run off like that is definitely. I mean, I'm sure you've all made pasta before, and if you haven't, it's difficult to get the timing right. Unless you're watching the clock, in which case it's quite easy. And I watch the clock, so whatever. Back to the story. She grinned widely and bounded through to the kitchen, the doors swinging briefly before closing behind her. Fluttershy sat down at the table and sniffed the flowers as she waited. Pinkie certainly had put in a lot of effort to make this a wonderful evening for her. That's right, I forgot it's Hudson Who's Day. It's Pinkie Pie's just you know, the day. Outside, two ponies walked by. Lusty. Ah, sorry, long day. Outside, two ponies walked by, lost in each other's eyes. Fluttershy watched their lips and imagined the words as the mare said something. She sighed. If only she could speak those words herself. A strange bubbling noise from the kitchen made her look up and listen. Um, uh, are you all right in there, Pinkie? She called through the door. Absolutely, no problemo. Pinkie sing-songed happily from the other side. Don't you worry yourself. The pasta's in the pot and doing fine. I'll be with you uno momento. Oh, if you say so, Fluttershy said, and fidgeted with her glass of wine as she watched the couples walk by outside. More sounds emerged from the kitchen, causing Fluttershy to lean over to glean something through the swing doors. She was balancing on her pillow, stretching her neck to see, when sudden music nearly caused her to tip over on the floor with a yelp. She managed to right herself just as Pinkie burst out through the swing doors on her hind legs, a large steaming plate balanced on her head, while her front hooves were busy managing the accordion. This brings me all the way back to Lady and the Tramp. The two dogs went out back of the pasta place, and for some reason, I'll have to go back and watch it again, but for some reason, the two owners of the store just took a liking to the dogs, and one of them carried out a steaming hot plate of pasta, while the other worked a concertina. Um, which is similar to an accordion, it's just a little different. And so, that's quite interesting. Because it reminds me so much of that, because it's just and really, when you're cooking Italian food and you want to make it romantic, you really need either an accordion or a concertina. I mean, they're just, yeah. Uh, where am I here? I lost. She leaned over. She met. Right. Pinkie grinned and leaned down next to Fluttershy, letting the plate slip off her head onto the middle of the table between their respective seats. Very skilled, Pinkie. Pasta and wheat balls. There you go. No meatballs, wheat balls. Had been arranged in a spicy tomato sauce in the center, circled by bread, grated cheese, vegetables, and little porcelain bowls of various extra sauces and spices. The piquant scent wafted up from the plate and prickled Stop it with the alliteration, it's not fair! It's a tongue twister! The piquant scent wafted up from the plate and prickled Fluttershy's plate as Pinkie pranced around her playing and singing. Pinkie finished with an impressive accordion solo and plopped down on the opposite side of the table, smiling while Fluttershy turned a light pink and looked down at her hooves. If only she could get those three little words over her lips. Well, I think we all know what those three words are. If only she could express herself freely. But where Pinkie seemingly had no restraints at all, Fluttershy was always hopelessly tongue-tied. That is true, really. Pinkie looked at her expectantly from across the table. Fluttershy smiled and leaned over to take a sniff of the delightful aroma. It smells delicious, she said, and picked up one end of a pasta string, slurping it up. You're setting up the same scene, aren't you? It made a small smack with its tail end and left a streak of red sauce on her nose. She squeaked and quickly licked it off with a rosy tint to her cheeks. I'm sorry. Please excuse me. I am assuming that's Italian, but I don't actually know how it's supposed to be pronounced because I never took Italian. Give me a moment. Bene così, signorina Fluttershy. Con passione. Pinkie giggled and gestured dramatically. Pasta should be eaten. You know what? For this moment, she might be. Pasta should be eaten with proper passion. You're doing fine, she said excitedly, bouncing slightly with anticipation on her pillow. So, how's it taste? Good? Great? Absolutely amazing? Miraculously mouth-watering? Oh, mamma mia! Oh, mamma mia! Mmm, mmm. Fluttershy licked her lips and breathed in the flow of air of her tongue, leaving a pleasantly cool sensation. Spicy, she whispered. Oh, that's nothing. Pinkie grinned widely. I made sure the main sauce would be mild enough for any pony. I wasn't really sure how much heat you could take. Is it too hot? I am the same way, actually. I am in New Jersey, the Northeast. Nothing up here is spicy enough for me. I take the hot sauce all the time, and there's some heat to it enough to enjoy. But really, there's nothing that makes me run for the milk or the bread, to cool it off. And do not use water; it does not work. Milk actually has a chemical in it called capsaicin, which neutralizes the capsaicin, which is what's burning your tongue. So milk and or bread actually works a lot better than water. So head for those next time you're eating something spicy. And bring tissues because when something is truly spicy, your nose will get cleared out. That said, on with the story. Fluttershy smiled. I I like it. It's pleasant. Pinkie clapped her hooves in joy. You do? You should try the other sauces then, if you like it hot. Ooh, and the cheese. Don't forget the cheese. Pasta isn't complete without cheese. I agree. She looked expectantly at Fluttershy, waiting for her to try again. I, aren't you hungry? Fluttershy asked a little timidly as she tipped a wheat ball in one of the special sauces and sprinkled it generously with cheese. I'm starving, but I made it for you, Fluttershy, and I want to see what you think. I want to know if you like what I made, Pinkie said and leaned forward expectantly. I couldn't possibly eat before I know what my guest likes the food, now could I? Fluttershy smiled and gulped down the tasty, saucy, cheesy ball of wheat. The sauces were so full of flavor she almost cried. A moment later she did cry, as the flavors burst into flames upon her lips and tongue. Oh, Pinkie, she gasped. So hot. Me or the sauce? I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. Me or the sauce? Pinkie chortled. Pinkie! Fluttershy gasped in shock and turned tomato red. This should be labeled comedy. This is a comedy romance. It really is. Sorry. The pink pony giggled innocently. She couldn't help it. So, do you like it? Fluttershy nodded while panting. It's, really, really good. I, I love, she managed to say over the heat. Two little words. Only one word to go. That last little word. She was so close. It, she sighed. Ah, Fluttershy. So close and yet so far away. Pinkie's joy turned supernova. Yay! I just knew you would! I'm so excited! You're a pretty tough pony, you know? That was some pretty hot stuff there. She giggled and slurped up a string of pasta. Mmm, delicious! I actually feel like eating. I wonder what we're having for dinner tonight. I hope it's pasta because I really like pasta. Of course, I love to make it myself, and I make my own sauce. You get the just regular tomato sauce, and then you add the oregano and the basil. I like to add just a dash of sage with thyme, rosemary and thyme, which is actually a great movie by the way. Rosemary and thyme, basil, oregano, small pinch of sage, and then this. It's really only supposed to be used on meat, but I use like this barbecue grill mates thing that I just throw in there that gives it a nice flavor to it. And on occasion I'll throw in a bay leaf, although they don't really do anything because the sauce doesn't cook for very long. But yeah, I like to make my own sauce. And if no one else is eating it, I actually add a bit of cayenne pepper because I love cayenne. I mean, I love spicy things. Like, remember the first episode? The hot sauce, and she poured it on the cupcake and ate it. I would totally do the same thing. I mean, all depends on the hot sauce. I mean, Tabasco, I think, just tastes terrible. And Frank's Red Hot is hot, but it's not flavorful. And cayenne just is the perfect balance of hot and flavor. My brain is dead. I'm just thinking too much about the pasta. So much pasta. I just ah. All right. Back to the story. Can you see me? Yeah, you can see me fine. Okay. Uh, Fluttershy, Fluttershy smiled and returned to the plate, the pepper burning pleasantly. She was licking her lips as her ears caught a new sound from the kitchen. She looked up at Pinkie on the other side of the table, then at the door to the kitchen, behind the pink pony. Did you hear something? Now, I'm wondering, what happened to the music I thought she said she turned on? There's been no mention of it, like, it's just not there. Hear what? Pinkie giggled and turned her head to look where Fluttershy was looking. Probably just something outside, or a mouse, she said with a smile and offered Fluttershy a refill of her glass. Don't worry, Fluttershy. I like mice, Fluttershy said with a nervous smile. She didn't think it sounded like a mouse, unless it was a mouse who knew how to cook. But maybe Pinkie was right. They sneak in sometimes, Pinkie said, while sprinkling a little more cheese on the pasta and took a small mouthful. She slurped slowly. And steal all our candy, she said with her mouth full of pasta and spicy tomato sauce. Fluttershy admired Pinkie's lack of manners and took a mouthful of her own, her eyes still on the kitchen door and her ears alert for more sounds. She leaned over the table as she sucked up the last strands of pasta. Her attention was so occupied by the kitchen that it took her a moment to realize that her nose had bumped into Pinkie's, and their lips met in the middle of the small table. Shocked, yep, this is what happens when you eat from the same plate. That. And it's so adorable. It's just, this is the only word for it. It's just cute and adorable. Where's that? I don't have it loaded. I wish I would have known. There's the video by Kyrospawn. Oh, Kyrospawn is great with those short little videos. I think you know what I'm talking about. The Sweetie Belle from one of the later season 3 episodes. That would be adorable. It was from the pet episode where Spike was trying to get jewels for his stupid cake, and he kept eating them all accidentally. Anyways, back to this story. Shocked, she squeaked and pulled away, feeling very much like she would love being a tiny mouse hiding in the woodwork. Pinkie blinked a few times, then grinned. Whoops! Fluttershy cursed herself for pulling back. She wanted to grab Pinkie and do it right, to leave no doubts about her feelings. She tried to summon the courage to speak the words. It should come so naturally now. They were right there on her lips. And then the seconds took them away again, until it seemed way too late. The pink pony's right eye twitched a little, and the smile looked a little bothered. Sorry, she apologized as she rubbed her eye and allowed... I wonder if that's what it indicates. Like, you know her Pinkie sense. I mean, it made a reference to it. Like, the twitchy tail means something's falling, then the ear flop, eye flutter, knee twitch means opening doors. And what if one of her right eyes being twitchy means some ponies in love? And she knew that when she woke up, knew it was going to be a great day, or rather, or something to that effect. You know what I mean. Anyways, moving on. Scroll down so I can read. She apologized as she rubbed her right eye, and a loud bubbling sound from the kitchen broke the moment entirely. Pinkie glanced at the door. I'll just go take a look. Maybe I left the stove on. She smiled and got up. Don't worry, I'll only be a moment. Fluttershy's shoulders sagged as she watched Pinkie disappear into the kitchen. Only a moment, but the moment had been ruined. She had been too slow. The perfect opportunity had been staring her right in the face, and she had shied away and been too afraid. Always so afraid. There was another bubbling, gurgling sound, louder this time. Pinkie came cantering back out the door and shut it behind her. Her face a notably paler palette of pink, and her smile somewhat strained. Is everything all right? Fluttershy asked nervously before pulling her hooves up to her mouth to prevent a gasp, or maybe a scream. A pool of vividly scarlet and strangely bubbling tomato sauce was quickly seeping out from under the door behind Pinkie, who looked down and gave an uncertain chuckle. But Fluttershy was in more focused. I see it coming. Do you see it? But Fluttershy was more focused on the long macaroni tentacles waving in the air above the pony and looking like they were in a very grabby mood. The flying spaghetti monster. Dun dun dun! Or something to that effect. Pinkie, behind you! She cried. Pinkie bit down hard on the noodly appendage wrapping around her. It snapped with the characteristic sound of a noodle being severed, which is to say a particularly... This reminds me of a children's storybook I once read. Someone had made like the best pasta or whatever, and then someone else wanted to make the pasta as well, and he learned that it was like a spell, but he messed up the spell when he casted it, and the pasta just kept growing and growing and growing, and it was like, ah, no, too much pasta, and I gotta eat it all. Oh my goodness. But this could be something similar. What if she used a spell to make the best pasta, and it became sentient? That would be interesting. Fluttershy gave a squeak of terror as macaroni tentacles reached through the door and felt about Pinkie's head and legs. Pinkie's eye... Oh, jeez. If you knew where my brain went with that one. Pinkie's eyes caught hers. Fluttershy's heart flitted about in her chest. I am with you, she said. Good, Pinkie said, and dove for the table, grabbing a fork between her teeth. Grab a fork. We're going in. She waited for Fluttershy to grab the other fork with clattering teeth, then charged through the swing doors with a battle cry, which was more like a muffled roar. Fluttershy made her own attempt and crept through the door on trembling hooves. Fluttershy could not say she had been prepared for the sight that met her in the kitchen. There was sauce everywhere. A great big mass of pasta growing in a sea of sauce overflowing with wheat balls roaring around like huge unblinking eyes. Pinkie was already up to her flank in hot sauce and pasta al dente, sinking her teeth and fork into the noodly guts of the monstrosity. Fluttershy watched Pinkie's slick coat in the bubbling bath of tomato and leaking tentacles, and for a moment she felt all warm and distracted. Fluttershy, I need you here with me. Pinkie's call for help against the growing tide of macaroni mayhem tore the... I suppose you could say macaroni... No, it is macaroni. Okay. Pinkie's call for help against the growing tide of macaroni mayhem tore the Pegasus out of the brief stupor. She sank a heavy lump in her throat and charged with the fork held in front of her, right into the fray with Pinkie. She fought teeth and fork against the rising waves and lashing tentacles, trying to eat her way through, but it was hopeless. Every bite she managed, all the pasta seemed to double. Where is it all coming from? She cried, as she struggled to keep her head above the noodles and sauce. Pinkie's head burst through the surface and gasped for air. Keep eating! It's too late, Fluttershy yelled. I can't keep up. Fluttershy! Pinkie cried, and flailed desperately against the sauce at the top of Fluttershy's pink mane disappeared under the waves. No! Pinkie yelled as she pressed against the roof of the kitchen by the growing masses beneath her. She took a final deep breath before the last air was swallowed up. There was a groaning noise as the pasta overflowed the bakery and pressed against the walls with increasing force. A brief moment of stillness ensued. Then the walls gave up and burst under the pressure. Like a tsunami of tomato sauce and pasta, the monstrous mass rose and fell over the sleepy village of Ponyville. When she got up that morning, Fluttershy never imagined she would be drowning in pasta and tomato sauce in the evening. It was a depressing thought as she flared wildly in the direction she thought was up. Little did it help as she was thrown around and about among giant wheat balls in the juicy currents. She was losing her last strength and silently seeing her life flash before her eyes just as she felt a hoof grab her and own and pull. She emerged into the fresh night air with a gasp. Hold on, Fluttershy, I got you, Pinkie's voice said next to her ear as she felt the other pony wrap her hooves around her chest and pull her through the saucy waves. Fluttershy whipped her eyes. This reminds me of that video of the smooze that I saw. Nothing can stop the smooze. Fluttershy wiped her eyes of tomato sauce and blinked at the moonlight as Pinkie dragged her out of the sea and onto gently rocking ground. Welcome aboard the Sugar and Spice, Miss Shy. Fluttershy looked around and blinked several times. They were sitting on what looked like the roof of the Sugar Cube corner, sailing up. The roof of the Sugar Cube corner is a cupcake-shaped top where Pinkie's room is. Sailing along upon the waves of pasta and sauce. Now and then a wheat ball collided with the improvised vessel and made it rock, but the ship seemed stable. Oh, Pinkie, what are we going to do? And what's happening to the denizens of Ponyville? She looked out over the flooded lands. Ponyville must be totally covered, and she thought all of Equestria couldn't be far behind. Pinkie swung herself up upon the small balcony and around the muffin-shaped tower of the corner and held a hoof up her eyes as she scouted toward the distance. We must find the Master Pasta. Find him and challenge him to a duel. The, Master Pasta? Fluttershy looked up at the pink pony. There's always a Master Pasta. Where are we headed? Pinkie grinned down at her. Baltimore, Fluttershy. The legendary city of hot sauce and the great Tabasco River is where we're going, and where we must find the Master Pasta. I don't know much about Baltimore, other than that BronyCon is going to be held there this year, and it's a seaport city. Although hot sauce, I'm told, comes from Louisiana and New Orleans. Yeah. Wow, I must be tired. I'll take a nap before I get to the other one. The setting sun cast a crimson glow over the great pasta sea as the Sugar and Spice neared its destination. Pinkie, it must have taken hours. Pinkie narrowed her eyes as she gazed at the horizon and completed a small jig on the spot. Land ho! Chin up, Fluttershy, she said, and smiled at the Pegasus next to her. The city of hot sauce awaits us at last. Fluttershy wasn't entirely sure how Pinkie steered the improvised vessel. Perhaps she didn't. Perhaps it seemed it had a life of destiny of its own. No. One or the other. Perhaps she didn't. A semicolon. It seemed to have a life of its own, or it seemed it had a life of its own, or whatever. Or perhaps it had a life of destiny of its own. You just get rid of this. It doesn't need to be there. It shouldn't be there. It ruins the flow of the sentence. Just get rid of it. This was great. Perhaps she didn't. Perhaps it had a life and destiny of its own. That works. And they were just along for the ride. She watched as it steered towards a looming shape in the distance, a giant wheat ball rising out of the mist, cut through by a river of deep red sauce. Where the river met the sea could be seen the lights of a bustling city. Welcome to the Tabasco River and the city of Baltimore, Pinkie said as the ship drifted slowly into the busy harbor. The party pony breathed in the aromatic breeze wafting down from the wheaty mountains. This is the land of spices, my dear Fluttershy. The ship landed, and the two ponies jumped off the roof onto the soft ground. Fluttershy followed behind Pinkie, giving a low eek at all the pasta ponies watching them as they passed. Pinkie didn't seem to mind them. Alright, if I know pasta, and I do, she began, the Master Pasta should be somewhere around. She stopped at the... I need a drink of... I don't have a water bottle. Oh, bother. Here. Where? Fluttershy wasn't sure where to even begin. Let's try one of the restaurants, Pinkie said cheerfully, her optimism unbounded as always. Um, Fluttershy, am I really almost an hour in? Pinkie trotted down the wide avenue, inspected a menu sign on the wall. Fluttershy followed with her eyes fixed on the pasta ponies walking behind her. Which one? There must be hundreds. Pinkie muttered to herself as she inspected the menu. Where the pasta is the firmest, the sauce is the thickest, and the spice is the hottest ones around. She sniffed the air. Well, this ain't the place, she stated certainly, and trotted once around herself before continuing down the street while following her nose. Fluttershy continued to eye the ponies around her. She was glad that Pinkie didn't stop them to ask for directions. She couldn't place her hoof on it. But they didn't seem like ponies who would help. She nearly walked into Pinkie as the pink pony made a sudden stop with an exclamation of "Aha!" She turned down a side alley and stopped in front of a small restaurant. Gotcha! She looked back at Fluttershy. You with me? Things might get stringy in here. Fluttershy nodded with a mildly sinking feeling in her chest. Pinkie gave her a brilliant smile before bursting through the door to the small establishment. Fluttershy flitted off behind her. The restaurant was a small, cozy place with a few tables and a lot of decor. A few of the tables were occupied and all eyes were now on them, or at least on Pinkie, because Fluttershy had made a little eek and taken immediate cover behind the pink pony, tail between her legs. We've come for the master pasta, Pinkie exclaimed to the room. A tense silence filled tumbleweed. A tense silence filled the place. A small party of assorted pastas sat around a corner table, larger and set off from the other tables. They were now turning to regard them, all at least except for the big, uncooked unicorn, which looked rather immobile where it sat, but the rest were turning to regard them. Pinkie strolled up to the table with the kind of social ease and confidence that only the pink pony could muster. The pastas around the table got up halfway before a noodly hoof from somewhere in the back gestured for them to sit back down. My friends, these ponies come to talk business, and we're not business pastas, I ask. And are we not business pastas, I ask? Said a fat little pasta pony, as the others took their seats again with a few nods of agreement. The pasta pony turned to Pinkie and Fluttershy with open hoofs. Come, sit down, and tell old Rigatoni what he can do for you. Pinkie gave the pasta father a good once-over. Are you the master pasta? Perhaps. Who wants to know? The pasta leaned back and considered them. I'm Pinkie Pie, and my friend Fluttershy and I have come to challenge you to a duel. Fluttershy gave a little squeak behind Pinkie as she was mentioned. A murmur and many meaningful glances were shared across the room. The master pasta smiled a light semolina smile at them. You want to do that now? You want to do a match now? Yeah, Pinkie said with her hooves crossed. If we win, you leave and take all your pasta and sauce with you. Got it? If that's all right with you, that is. Fluttershy hastened to add from behind. Ah, I see. And what if I win? The master steepled his noodly hooves. You stay? Pinkie's certainty deflated somewhat. Miss Pie, the master pasta spoke in a disappointed voice. You come proposing business to me, and this is all you have to offer? You offer me what I already have? What is there in such a proposal for me? Ah, but so be it. In that case, I get to set the rules. It's only fair, no? I guess so. Pinkie turned it over a few times in her mind. What do you propose, then? The master spread his spaghetti hooves and gestured around them. Miss Pie, Miss Fluttershy, this is Baltimore, city of hot sauce. It can therefore only be proper that I should propose to you a contest not of brawn or wits, but of taste. We shall sample the city's delicacies and current culinary specialties until one side gives up. That's the Baltimore way. That's it? Pinkie grinned. Let's get ready to rumble, then. Let's not? Ah, Only one last detail. The pasta father said in a tone that didn't quite instill comfort. The matter of what is to happen in case of a stalemate. Very important. In that distant eventuality, victory goes to the establishment. That is, me. Are we agreed? Pinkie, are you sure about this? I mean, obviously Pinkie Pie agreed to that last term, because she's quite confident in herself. Fluttershy, Pinkie, are you sure about this? Fluttershy whispered nervously as she sat down at the table with the suspicious-looking pasta ponies at them. Pinkie gave Fluttershy an encouraging nudge. You're a tough pony, Fluttershy. You just dive right in and show that sauce who's boss. For Equestria, for me, and for your friends. But I don't like the look of this, pasta guy. Pinkie looked across the table at the grinning pasta boss, wiggling his noodly brows at them. I can't do the wave. There was something about the way he looked at them. She couldn't quite put her hoof on it. Pinkie narrowed her eyes and stretched her chin. Right. You fillies ready? The master pasta said under his grin. 2 against 1, because I am in a generous mood. Wouldn't want you to think I am not playing fair. Bring it, noodle face! Pinkie slammed her hoof on the table, causing Fluttershy to squeak again. Show us what you got. Favoloso. He clapped his tentacle hooves twice, and a pair of waiters came trotting in, carrying 2 plates. The waiters placed one in front of the 2 ponies, and the other in front of the master. We lay the ground with good old garlic bread, he said as the scent of garlic filled the room and nearly knocked them off their... That's right, that's the other thing I add to my sauce. I add, well, it depends on what I have on me. Occasionally I use fresh minced garlic, but sometimes I just use the garlic powder because it's easier. Yeah, it's very nice. Oh my. Fluttershy stared deerily at the bread in front of her. The master pasta began, and then the bread was gone. Pinkie lipped her lip. Oh, Pinkie licked her lips and let out a burp that could have wilted an apple orchard. D. There was a moment of silence before the pasta pony picked up his own plate bread and ate it ponderously. Good. But there is no rush, Miss Pie. We might as well enjoy the food as civilized beings, no? Next was horseradish hors d'oeuvres. Wine was served, and the battle began in earnest as Pinkie and Fluttershy dug in. Onions followed, cheese so cheesy it tried to flee, mustard, jalapeno relish, stuffed chilies, all supplemented with plenty of wine and all the many sauces endemic to the city, from the classic Tabasco to the fiery habanero sauce and the immensely spicy imported rainbow sauces. I really need a drink. A few drops in there. Don't really want to get up, that would be quite rude. There we go, just wet down my throat a little bit. What was I saying? Rainbow sauce. Yes, the rainbow sauces. Because of the episode, I know you're all thinking the same thing. The episode where they went to the rainbow factory and the rainbow sauce. This story better be over soon because I'm coming up in an hour and I'm getting tired. Fluttershy's hooves trembled and her eyes ran like rivers as she fought to get the last stuffed pepper into her mouth. Her mouth was already on flames, and her breath alone could have killed a bear. Even Pinkie was panting and looking as if flames could escape any moment. Come on, Fluttershy, just that last one, Pinkie said encouragingly. From across the table, old Rigatoni watched them with a pleased smile as he leaned back with a little cough. Ready to give up, young fillies? No way! Pinkie stuck out her tongue as the master turned it back to her friend. You can do it, Fluttershy! For your friends! For me! Fluttershy closed her mouth around the pepper, dripping 5 different kinds of sauce at least, and swallowed it whole with a defiant glare. That's actually what you need to do. The secret to eating spicy things, like when you do a spicy challenge, what you want to do is if you can avoid it, do not let it touch your lips. Actually, just dunk it right back. Uh, just deal with the burning, swallow it, and do not let it touch your lips. If it touches your lips, you are done. I have won so much money from people who thought I couldn't. They would. People have paid me to drink. Like I've bet money that I could drink this hot sauce, and they've gotten like the hottest sauces they can find. And I just dunk it back, and they all just like. It's great. I mean, it burns a couple of days later, but totally worth it for the money and their faces most of all. Anyways, Fluttershy closed her mouth around the pepper, dripping 5 different kinds of sauce at least, and swallowed it whole with a defiant glare. Her head was swimming from the wine, her lips aflame with sauce, her hooves dripping and burning brightly red. Perhaps this was how dragons were born, she thought. We'll check on that. Perhaps a roar was expected of her. She just might incinerate the pasta. There were a few surprised mutterings around the room as all the spectators watched the ponies soldier on. It was quite impressive to watch. The Don nodded and snapped his noodles. Looks like we're on the last dish. The waiters returned with 3 small porcelain bowls, just fit for a hoof. The 2 ponies stared at the rainbow-colored sauce as the waiters very carefully set it down in front of them, one for each. Pinkie, it's... Fluttershy stammered. Well, she's not really stammering the way you've written it. I know, Fluttershy. Pinkie stared at the thin sauce. She couldn't be seeing things. The flame was bright and clear. Rainbow Dragon's Bile, the Don explained. A fine and rare liquor brewed from a mix of the 6 hottest peppers ever grown, fermented for 21 years and triple distilled. Only 10 bottles have ever been made. It can really burn, he said with delight, as he lifted his bowl with care to demonstrate. You blow out the flame and down it in one go before it reignites. Ready, fillies? Or can we simply conclude our business and declare the winner? Pinkie scowled and... Scroll down, jeez. Pinkie scowled and lifted her bowl. No pony, or pasta, should ever say she didn't like her sauce hot. With a blow that could kill, she extinguished the flame and swallowed the few drops of liquor. Everyone in the room watched in breathless silence as Pinkie's eyes widened, and little by little they were little red lakes of tears. Piece, she breathed, peeling the paint off a picture on the opposite wall. Of cake. Impressive, the Don said, clearly not lying. And your friend? That's why he took them both on, because they both had to do it. It's actually better for the single person, because only one person has to do it. If you've got 2 people and just one of them can't do it, you're screwed. Fluttershy reached out a shaking hoof for the little bowl of liquid fire. She paused as her hooves fumbled with the bowl. I can't... Pinkie reached out to steady her hooves. Together they lifted it ever so slowly. Fluttershy looked Pinkie in the eyes. I can't. The room was silent. Fluttershy... Pinkie looked down at the little bowl and sank a fiery lump in her throat. No pasta. Beats Pinkie. A few gasps were heard from the room as she blew out the flame and downed the second bowl, too. Pinkie swayed a little, eyes like waterfalls. Then she slammed the bowl on the table and turned to the Don. Ha! The master smiled and clapped his tentacle hooves. Superb, my young fillies. Absolutely superb. He lifted his drink again. Cheers. The rainbow fire disappeared in a gulp. The Don breathed in and sat for a while before breathing back out a little cloud of smoke. He smiled apologetically at the 2 ponies. But I am afraid, but we have no more to offer. You've eaten every challenge, so we have a stalemate, you see. And that means I win. Pinkie deflated despite the fires roaring inside her. But, but, that's not fair. Miss Pie, are you calling me dishonest? I am but an honest business pasta in good standing. You made the deal yourself. You chose the price. I chose the rules, remember? And you agreed to them, fair and square. But now you want to complain? Pinkie looked down at her hooves in defeat. Fluttershy was still watching the little bowl with her jaw hanging slightly. She sank and looked at Pinkie. It couldn't end like this. Not after they had fought so hard. Not after all that Pinkie had done. The Pegasus looked at their sauce-covered hooves and faces. She licked a bit of sauce off her hoof and looked up at Pinkie again. Something within her burned, and it wasn't just the explosive mixture of chili and wine. She couldn't do it. She glared at the triumphantly smirking Dawn across the table, then back at Pinkie. Pinkie blinked as Fluttershy grabbed her and their lips met. The pink pony's eyes widened for a second before they both lost themselves in the kiss. Lips of burning coal locked in tongues of white. I glazed right over that. I read it out loud and I didn't absorb a word of it. That is crazy. Okay, interesting. It was the hottest kiss Pinkie had ever had, laced with fire and a dripping passion. For the eternity of several seconds, she was in a world of pure searing passion, her sauce-covered hooves pulling Fluttershy so close they almost melted together. Oh, Shy! Pinkie gasped in surprise, as Fluttershy licked the last drops of sauce off her lips and buried her muzzle in Pinkie's neck, licking off this is getting a little saucy. Licking the little drops of sauces that had escaped and dripped down the pink pony's body. Her tongue felt along long burning streaks in its wake, and left Pinkie as soft as a noodle in her hooves. The room was utter. My lips are tired. The room was utter breathless silence as the two ponies licked up every drop of sauce and finished in another kiss. Fluttershy opened one eye to stare at the Don before breaking the kiss and fixing him in her gaze. There. Any of your pastas want to do that with you? No? She turned her glance at the room, every face suddenly doing their best to look inconspicuous. No? Well then, I guess we win. Pinkie gaped. The whole room gaped as Fluttershy beamed and kissed Pinkie again. What a wonderful evening! Mrs. Cake sighed at the brilliant night sky. Mr. Cake smiled and gave her a muzzle. Well deserved, honey bun. It was very nice of you, Miss Cake said as the two stopped outside Sugar Cube Corner and shared a brief kiss. And we have the rest of the night left. The amber-coated earth pony smiled and pushed the door open. Why do you insist on doing that? Just say Mr. Cake. I don't even have an insult ready. Following the great seas of tomato sauce and pasta to where two very sauced-up ponies lay, snuggled up by a table with several bottles of wine and even more sauces. Mr. Cake Standard. Maybe. Yes? Yes. Mrs. Cake read it. Yes, I think perhaps this is the wrong door. Yes, how silly of me. Mr. Cake echoed and pointed a hoof across the street to a small hotel. I think perhaps we live at that place over there. They gave a quick nod at each other, and to each other, and hurried back out and across the street. Okay. Good story, I suppose. I really should have brought a glass of water. I didn't realize 6,000 words was going to take me over an hour to read, because normally it wouldn't. I keep forgetting I read slow when I read out loud. I am, tired. I must have had a really long day. Either that or the story really was a bit of a drag. I mean, it took a while, and I just kept waiting for it to end. And the, the phrases that I pointed out with the writer just made not very many mistakes, but a few big ones that just sort of ruined it for me. And like I really I got a few laughs out of it. Well, it's not going on my favorites list, but well written. So there we go. That was this week's segment of Rainy Readings. Tune in a few hours. Oh, it's almost 8 o'clock. It's a good thing I didn't schedule it for 8 o'clock. Jeez. Well, a little over an hour. I'll have the readings after dark, or RAD. With the mystery story, which if some of you are smart, you can look and see it missing from the list. Don't forget to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and tune in tomorrow night at 10 o'clock my time. So let's see, that's gonna be 2 in the morning General Mountain Time, or UTC, for the podcast on Pregnant Stallion Radio. We're doing, I think something about fanfics. I don't remember what Soft said, but whatever. Tune in to. I don't know where to tell you to tune into. I don't actually. Point is, it's tomorrow night. So this is for Pregnant Stallion Radio. I mentioned the subscribe button. And yeah, don't forget to send in your favorite story. Don't forget to vote on the others. And I'll see you in an hour, I guess. Alright.